Hey YouTube, we are only days away from the recently revealed Animal Crossing New Horizons Direct, which is set to announce a fairly sizable content update. We know it's going to be pretty significant because Nintendo have opted for a dedicated Direct over just a trailer or the articles they've been using since launch. And of course, so far Brewster and the Roost have been confirmed for the November update, which already hints at a bunch of other features that we can expect to see. Based on Brewster's reveal alone, the most obvious feature that is almost certain to return alongside him is Gyroids. So given the player base of New Horizons is so much larger than all of the previous games combined, I thought it was the right time to talk about Gyroids in more detail, go over what they are and how they're used, and essentially break down everything you need to know about them. And we might even cover some rumours surrounding how they'll likely work in New Horizons. Now first off, Gyroids are not to be confused with the Gyroid species such as Lloid or the Gyroid assistants from earlier games. Gyroids in this sense are a rather large collection of furniture items also known as haniwa, which are traditionally funerary objects in Japan and often buried with the dead. However, despite links to their backstory, they're quite the opposite in Animal Crossing. Gyroids are essentially collectible clay figurines, with every single one having its own unique aesthetics and sound effects, and when placing them together can create quite the atmosphere. But more on that later. Now, much like fossils, gyroids are found primarily in dig spots, however can only be found on days after it's been raining or snowing, and generally can only be found in open areas away from buildings. Across the Animal Crossing franchise, there's around 40 different families of gyroids, with each subset including anywhere between 1 and 6 gyroids within a family, totaling over 130 odd individual gyroids to collect, which also happens to make it one of the largest sets of items to collect in any Animal Crossing game. Interestingly, gyroids aren't the only things inspired by haniwa figures though, as that's where COCO gets her appearance from, which is always a fun fact. Anyway, gyroids are primarily used as decoration by being placed inside player homes. When activated, they gyrate and play atmospheric music at various pitches and tempos. And when multiple gyroids are placed together, you can create all kinds of unique sounds. However, the coolest feature is that they actually play along with COCO Slider songs. If a COCO song is playing, gyroids will actually match the tempo of the song and synchronize with it, creating even more unique music. It's pretty cool. Anyway, the reason gyroids are so heavily rumoured for New Horizons other than the data mine findings is because they have always been linked with Brewster and the Roost in some way. This is because Brewster is not only a fan of coffee, but also a fan of collecting gyroids. In earlier games, Brewster offered a way to store the countless gyroids players collected, and in New Leaf, Brewster also fashioned his own family of gyroids called Brewstoids, which were exclusive items obtained by working part-time at the Roost. You literally had to get 255 orders correct to unlock the final Brewstoid. Now interestingly, gyroids also played a part in Club LOL, where both Dr. Shrunk and COCO Slider performed, so with the rumour COCO Slider will also be moving to the Roost as well as Brewster's links to gyroids in the past, it's looking promising the November update will introduce gyroids to New Horizons for the first time. Now that's about everything there is to know about gyroids from past games, so it only leaves speculation to how these will work in New Horizons. It's likely these will work in much the same way as previous games, but we can expect some differences to how they're found or stored or even placed. Given New Horizons is all about crafting and we already have the clay crafter material, it's possible we may have to craft them, although this may take away from some of the traditions of why gyroids exist in the first place. Although it's highly likely the process of finding them will still involve rainfall, as recent data mine findings revealed new weather patterns suggesting islands may soon see more rainfall than before, which would benefit those searching for gyroids. Now another rumour surrounding the storage of gyroids is that either Brewster will once again offer to store them on your behalf, or an additional museum exhibit will open alongside the mechanic to feature them much like fossils. I think this theory stems from the idea that if you find a gyroid for the first time and potentially shows you Blathers, he might be like, oh yeah, that's a gyroid, I have a good friend who knows a lot about gyroids, why don't I invite him here? Therefore adding the Roost and a gyroid storage facility to the museum. It makes sense. Of course there's no evidence to support this just yet, but it's a pretty exciting thought. I think offering a new collection of items such as gyroids will be an excellent addition to New Horizons and just what the game needs to keep people playing, if not for some much needed nostalgia. But what do you think about gyroids? Are you happy to see them return? And do you want to be able to store them somewhere in the museum? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Of course, thank you so much to all the Patreon and channel members for supporting this content. Until next time, have an amazing day, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.